Hello, and welcome to episode 9 of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner and myself, Seth Hellman. Rabbi, how you doing today?
I'm fine, Baruch Hashem. Um, this week, what I did this week, Sunday night was a wedding in New York.
I'm also tough.
Joe Nagar and his wife. That was nice. Always great to go to weddings. And what I liked about his wedding was that it was like 3 months after he got engaged, maybe 4 months. That's the way to do it. Meet her, get to know her. Actually,
Well,
I
the question is, how long was it that they knew each other before they got engaged?
Excellent question. Excellent. That was perfect. We didn't even practice this. You led right into it. So I bumped into like one of these 1 minute things from Manis Friedman, Rabbi Manis Friedman, well known. He gets more hits than we do. I don't know why, but anyway, one day we'll overtake him. That wouldn't be a good thing. He can never guess. It's no jealousy, no problem. Anyway, so he was saying on this 1 minute little thing on some platform or other, he said, so somebody interviewed him said to him, how long should a man and woman date? He said, how long should they date? 3 months. After 3 months, there's nothing else you're going to learn about this woman. Now, it's interesting he said that because I actually said the same thing before I heard him say it to this other guy, also an alum, who is dating this woman. And I said to him, so the story is like, I'm not going to reveal too many details, but but the story is that he knew her for a number of years. He's like probably now, I don't know exactly how old he is, but he's past his past 30. So he said, I knew this girl for a few years. I don't know, not that. And something happened, and so now we're dating. I said, oh, so how, and it seems that the woman is a little more observant than he is. So that's why all of a sudden he's calling me with questions about different things about Shabbos and about this and about that. I'm like, what's going on? So she's a little bit more observant. I mean, he's totally primed and ready for it. So it's a good thing. It's not like, a big clash of cultures there. And I said, well, how long do you know her? Now that you're going, I didn't say this, but it was implicit. Now that you're going around and, upping your Shabbos observance, this is a pretty big commitment to Hashem and to this woman. I said, how long do you know her? He said, 3 months. My response to him says, you're not going to find anything more about her if you continue dating. You might as well just get married. And that was like 2 weeks ago. So I think I'm going to call him again soon and ask him why I haven't gotten the announcement yet. But yeah, that was very nice. Very nice. It was very nice. Very nice. It was in Brooklyn. And yeah. Actually, I have a picture of him. I was part of the chuppah party, the official, I was a witness, signing the papers, this and that. And I took a quick picture of him, not a selfie, a picture of him standing under the chuppah. I'll post it on Instagram later. But you can see he's like really intense. And that was perfect. Like he was really davening hard. That's what he's supposed to be under your chuppah. It's a big commitment for life, and you never know what's going to happen. And you're standing under the open sky, and Hashem literally is opening up all the doors. So it's a good time to pray. Anyway, that's what happened. And then there was a campus kinnis for campus shluchim. I on the way home, drove through New Jersey, stopped off, met an alumni, saw his office, and I got to tell you, it was more messy than mine, and he's doing very well in his trade. So I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like telling him, why is there such a mess here? He forgot what my office looks like. And stopped off at the Kunis, met some, people from around the country, had some little good, informal farbringing. And then here I am. I mean, it's a longer program, but I didn't stay for the whole thing. Here I am back in Boston now.
Well, speaking of bringing, it is going to be Gimmel Tammuz very soon. It's nice.
Nice.
I feel like two things that go very hand in hand are bringing and Gimmel Tammuz for a lot of different reasons, mainly just because it's a Chabad thing. So, what would you say is the most common for someone who's never heard of Gimmel Tammuz before? What's the most common way that people celebrate Gimmel Thomas?
It's interesting you use the word celebrate because Gimmel Thomas is the yard site, the day of the passing of the Rebbe. And we say passing, we never use, and how do you deal with the passing of a Rebbe? How are we supposed to know this as Chassidim? What do we know what a Rebbe is, what a Chassid is. We can talk about that for hours and hours and hours and hours. What do you do when the Rebbe passes? What do you do then? So we have direct. There's two things. One is from the Alter Rebbe. We'll get to that in a minute. But the other things we have is the Rebbe talking about the passing of the previous Rebbe in 1950. So if you go to certain websites or whatever, WhatsApps or whatever your way of getting these kind of communications, a lot of stuff of the Rebbe talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe, the previous Rebbe. And that's the stuff I listen to when I'm driving or when I'm not driving. But yeah, it's very, very powerful, very instructive about giving you giving a focus. Like, what do you do? What do you do? How do you go about it? So on the one hand, the Rebbe was the leader of the Lubavitch movement of all the Chassidim, and now, what happens if the leader is not there to talk to directly? What do you do next? And so the Rebbe was giving instruction because, in fact, in the first Farbrengen, the year after the passing of the previous Rebbe, the Rebbe said to the Chassidim, amongst many things he said, don't think you're going to be able to rely on me. I'll take care of everything. And you guys are just going to, and Rebbe actually talks in Yiddish, and he said in English, Du willst gehen haben a good time. You're going to go have a good time. In other words, okay, the Rebbe's not here. He said, no, all those things you were instructed by the previous Rebbe, you got to keep on doing it. This is the path you have to follow. And he said, you think you have somebody to rely on? You can't rely on anybody else. And the Rebbe in his, modesty and humility says, you can't rely on a Rebbe, surely not on a Rebbe's son-in-law, because the Rebbe is the son-in-law of the previous Rebbe. So like he didn't look at himself like he didn't say, oh, I'm the Rebbe. You can't rely on me. You can't rely on the Rebbe's son-in-law. So that's, I think, the first thing that we take to heart when we think about Gimmel Tammuz is continuing what the Rebbe instructed us to do when what his instructions were to us. The second thing, of course, is this is very common. What the Alter Rebbe writes in the one of the sections of Tanya called the Geras HaKodesh, which is basically a collection of letters that the Alter Rebbe sent to different communities. And this was sent to a community of his colleague who had passed away. He was like his elder colleague from the students of the Maggid Mizrich. And he's trying to comfort them because their Rebbe passed away. And he quotes what it says, that when a soul departs, it's found in this world more than before. And it's very simple, very simple. We all have an neshama, we all have a godly soul, but it's contained by the body, right? Now, when a person passes, now the Rebbe, when he would speak about Peter Rebbe, would never say the word pass away, or he wouldn't say the Rebbe who's in Gan Eden. Once he said, why are we sending the Rebbe away to Gan Eden, like dismissing the Rebbe to Gan Eden? He's up in the upper realms. He's upper realms, yes, but not constrained by the body. And the soul, therefore, is unlimited, or it's not limited the way it was when it was enclosed in the body. Because when a person's soul in a body, you want to talk to them, you have to talk to them. You can't, if they're sleeping or they're far away, you can't communicate with them. But in a neshama, souls are not limited to time and space. So you can talk to them anytime you want, and they can do things whenever you want. So that's, I think, the focus that we have on a day like Gimmel Tammuz is to like really intensify our connection to the Rebbe. And then, so what is the Rebbe? Say intensify the connection with the Rebbe. Oh, I go to daven with him on Shabbos or Monday and Thursday or for Mincha, whatever, all the things he do, or I want to get $1 from him, right? But now intensifying the relationship is not about those physical interactions because they're not here now, but now we got to take it to a next level, to a higher level, which existed before as well, but now intensify that and focus on that, which is the teachings of the Rebbe and fulfilling the guidance that the Rebbe gave us, which basically was very simple. Get the world ready for Mashiach. Well, how do you do that? Torah mitzvahs. Da-da-da-dum. So I think that's the major message of Gimmel Tammuz.
So what are the plans at the Chabad house or in the Chabad community in Boston for tonight?
Oh man, it's lame. We should have prepared this better.
So maybe not Boston, but what's a
No, it's okay. It's okay. We'll
particular?
talk about no. Well, the reason I meant to say that is because the most of the Chabad house people simply are not around. In fact, this guy that I usually learn with on Wednesday afternoon said, "Oh, I can't make Wednesday afternoon. Can we learn like we did last week on Thursday?" And I said, "Yeah, that'll be great because tomorrow's a very special day." So to me, that's like doing the things I do and maybe trying to increase them, trying to meet more people, whatever. There's going to be a little Farbrengen tonight at, I guess I can reveal it, in Dr. Abrams' home. We have a regular learning session, and then it'll break out into Farbrengen afterwards. What I meant to say is that there's not a lot of people that are here in Boston, and those people that are Gimmel Thomas sensitive, a lot of them are going to go to New York to go to the Oyel, or to be, because it is vacation time now. The schools where the kids go to are out. The colleges, most of the kids that are, our regulars are in New Hampshire and other places. So, we don't have that much of a crowd around. But yeah, we'll make something happen. And again, it's not a big, loads of people. I'm sure every community has their own thing. But we'll focus on one Jew at a time. Because Rebbe's message really was one Jew at a time. Which I think now is the time. I think I sent you something. If you can put up that picture, we can talk about that right now.
Absolutely. Do you want the text first?
No, let's do the picture first.
Okay, picture first. Here we go.
Picture first. Okay, so let me give you a background to this. So this is Levi. Now Levi is an up and coming sophomore at BU, and we met sometime right in the beginning of the semester. I think we met. I don't remember exactly how we met. Probably I was tabling or something. Met him, and I said, "You want to put on tefillin?" And tefillin became our way of connecting. I mean, I would meet him. He'd come for Shabbos once in a while, but like that was the thing. I would, meet him on campus, or I was tabling. He would always come and put on tefillin, and be happy to do it. What he was happier to do was to meet me at the Chabad, because then we put on film and we'd schmooze around whatever's going on, in his life, or the camp, whatever Jewish thing was going on, Israel or Torah mitzvahs or anything like that. And so sometimes I'd be driving down Commonwealth Avenue, on West Campus, and I'd say, "Hey, Levi, where are you now?" Like on a Friday morning at 10 o'clock. He didn't have class then. He said, "Oh, I'm in West Campus. I'll meet you there." One time we walked in and we, wanted to go into the cafeteria area. So you have to swipe to get in. So we say to the person manning the booth there, like, "Oh, we're going in to do a prayer." And like, I don't know if a man or woman, whoever the person was, like, "Oh wow, that's so nice. Go ahead." And we put it right on there, and somebody else came by. So he's traveling now in Europe. And I said, wherever you go, make sure you put on, So last time we met a Chabad rabbi in a Chabad house, I don't remember where it was. Doesn't matter. Send me a picture. So this photo came. I said, "Levi, where are you?" So I'm going to read you he says, "I'm at the Tashkent airport in Uzbekistan." Now, every Chabad chassid in the world knows what Tashkent is, because Tashkent is like in Uzbekistan. So after World War II, they had to run away from the Soviets. They ran off to Tashkent because it was sort of, it's not so much in the center, and to the oil. So it was a big Hasidic community there, of all places. So I write back, like, what? Like, where did the tefillin come from? He said, "I saw a Jewish guy and asked to borrow his." Now, you got to understand this. You got to put this in your mind. He's going over to this guy in the airport and saying, "Excuse me, do you have tefillin?" This is exactly the opposite of whatever. Usually it's, "Excuse me, are you Jewish? Do you want to put on tefillin?" He's reversing it. "Excuse me." I don't think he said exactly these words, but "Are you Chabad? I want to put on tefillin." So my response to him was like, "Haha, fantastic." And he says he tries to do more wherever he goes, but in that area of the world, you can't just walk into a shul. You have to make an appointment, the whole thing. I say to him, "I bet the guy was a Chabadnik." He says, "I think so. His brother's going to become the head rabbi of Tashkent." Then I said to him, "Yeah." So then I said to him, I said, "Just looking at how big that Shalroish is on your head, that's definitely a Chabad Pirat tefillin."
Oh yeah.
So now you
yeah.
think about it. And then he says to me, "There's no coincidences." Like, just think about it. Here he is in the airport in Tashkent, right? He sees this Lubavitch guy. I don't know how many of them hang out in the airport. They're obviously Chabadnik. Goes over to him and asks him to put on film. This is like mind-boggling. And this is what the Rebbe had in mind when he sent people all over the world, like to wherever there's the possibility for a Jew to do a mitzvah, there should be some Chabadnik to help him out. And so that becomes ingrained in us. And to see that it extended over to Levi, I mean, it's really, to me, I'm excited, and I'm so excited about this. It's amazing. I was like, wow, it's unbelievable. Like, he's taking it to the whole new level. He's asking the Chabad guy, dude, I need your tefillin.
I mean, it's certainly a great story, and it's wonderful to see, but you do know what the next step is.
Yes.
And that's making...
No, don't go. I know what you're going to say. I took care of that. I'm ahead of you. I said to him, Levi, you got to take your tefillin with you. And whatever. I guess he didn't. We're trying to be positive here, okay? There was another thing, actually, talking about tefillin in interesting places. It was on the Chabad websites, and I guess other places as well, about this airline pilot is standing there wearing tefillin as people are getting off the plane. Now, so the story behind the story is that this Chabadnik was flying from LA, I don't know where, to New York, I guess. And he's flying from LA, and he got up to daven. And it looks like one of the flight attendants came over to him and told him, they have to sit down soon. They were getting ready for landing or whatever it was. And he said, be another few minutes, I'll be done. And then another flight attendant came over, and so he finished off. He sat down, and then he sees like this more distinguished type of person, not a flight attendant, but it looked like an older person, whatever. He said, "Oh no, now it's gonna be real trouble." And the guy comes over to him and whispers to him and says, "These people don't know what you're doing. If you need a daven, just go into the galley. I already told them they should give you all the space that you need." So of course, the Chabadnik says to the captain, "Have you put on tefillin today?" And he says, "I can't. I got to go land the plane now." So then afterwards, this Lubavitch guy makes sure that somehow he gets to the front of the plane when it's landing, and immediately he goes to the captain, and the captain puts on tefillin, and he says, "You want to put on tefillin?" He says, "Yes, I want to put it on. I want everybody to see I'm wearing tefillin." So he's standing, he put on this film, did the Shema, then he's standing as they're deplaning, greeting everybody with this tefillin on. Anyway.
It's funny because the thinking about the guy trying to daven on the plane reminds me of the flight to Israel. And me and Shmuel Bogomolny, who's I guess technically I can't really call him a fellow BU student anymore because I'm not a BU student anymore, but he's at BU and frequents the Chabad house. And so we were both on our birthright trip together last year, and we were both davening on the plane, but it was extremely difficult because we were in the back of the plane, so we were close to like the kitchen area, and so we kind of like went back there to have a little bit of extra room, but then they were like, you can't really be back here for too long, like once you guys finish, just like go back to your seats. And so the next time that we had tried to go and daven, I was doing this weird get up where it was like I would take my 3 steps back into the aisle and then my 3 steps forward into my seat. And so it was just this very goofy kind of maneuver that I had to do to try to be as out of the way as possible so that I'm not constantly, as inconvenient as it is to be trying to do Shmona Esrei between 2 plane seats, it's a lot better than getting bumped every other minute while people are walking by.
Right.
And so it's just that's what it makes me think of. It reminds me of the good memories of trying to figure out how to daven on an airplane.
Right. So this reminds you bring this up. This reminds me. I saw a post from the rabbi in Rostov. He's a big Instagrammer, and he's meeting with this old Russian guy. He tells the story that he came to visit this guy in Rostov, which is in Russia, and the man is like, I don't remember, it's like in his 90s or something, whatever. And he says to the rabbi, he says, "I have a question." He says, "It's very, very difficult for me to stand. So when I do the Amida, I stand up, I say the first few blessings, then I sit down to rest a little bit. Then I get up and do the next few blessings, and then I sit down again to rest a little bit." He says, "Do you think God is okay with me doing that?" And he's sitting there looking at this guy. This is what, and he's like, he doesn't know what, he's like speechless. How do you answer a question to a man like that who's lived what he's lived through, and now he's worrying about whether or not God is okay with him resting a few minutes in between davening. And you said to him, you know what? I promise you, God is okay if you sit the entire time. Halachically, that's actually true. It comes to mind because you were so careful about standing. In the next time, if it's really an emergency, just sit. But that was, and that's something that the Rebbe spoke a lot about. Was about well, not a lot, but he mentioned it at a few different times at Farbrengens about Russian Jews and the great sacrifice they have for Judaism while they're in the Soviet Union. And he talked about a question that, and during that time, during the Soviet Union, there was a man called, he was the head of the OK kosher certification. And I guess because of that, he had access to the Soviet Union because there was products that they were exporting and he had to supervise them. While he was there, he would visit the Chassidim there, the underground Chassidim, and he would videotape them talking to the Rebbe. I mean, I guess then it was movies, not videotape, a movie camera. And he did this for many years, for a number of years. And his son talks about it and says, like, it's incredible. They never check those films and never complicate anyone. And at a certain time, one time during the year, he would go into the Rebbe and play these movies for the Rebbe to watch, and the Rebbe would take down the names. And sometimes the Rebbe get very emotional because the questions they were asking the Rebbe, like, kids in the Soviet Union learns how to daven, a teenager, and says, the Rebbe, it doesn't ask because physically there's discomfort and all, having a livelihood, getting kosher food. He's like talking about, my davening isn't sincere enough. Can you give me a blessing? Like, can you imagine that? So, and then the Rebbe said, like, when they come out of the Soviet Union, we got to make sure to take care. Like when in 1989, whatever, 1990, when the Soviet Union collapsed, the Rebbe said, now that they're coming out, we got to take care of them. They were giving up their lives to Judaism. We got to make sure when they come to the free world that they have ability to continue that. Another time, the Rebbe told a story. A man wanted to know like this, that since he's forced to go to work on Shabbos, now, in fact, he doesn't actually transgress Shabbos. He manages not to do it. But as far as anybody knows, he's not keeping Shabbos. So those that are strict won't, just like wine that's touched by a non-Jew, someone who openly, publicly transgresses Shabbos, who knows what Shabbos is and transgressing it, right? Such a person, you can't make Kiddush on the wine that they touch. So his question was, can he make Kiddush for himself on Shabbos? Because since he desecrates Shabbos in public, can he make Kiddush on his own wine? And everyone was saying, can you imagine what's going on over here? That's what's bothering the guy. He's like, basically ready to give up his life for Shabbos. And he's not interested. He doesn't want a blessing that his life should be easier. He just wants to know halachically, what could he do? So this is really what the Rebbe told us these stories. Why do he tell us these stories? Because we have to look at our own lives and think to ourselves, like, okay, what are we giving up to be able to do our Jewish thing? What are our sacrifices we have to make? Thank God we most of us live in relative comfort, surely compared to Jews in the Soviet Union, both materially and spiritually. And so that's the challenge that we have. The challenge is also to reach out to the guy next to us. That's why we're doing this. We want people to know that Jews put on tefillin. It's a mitzvah to do it. So we have this guy in Tashkent putting on tefillin, and now we have this other little store we got. Are we going to put that up, or am I going to?
Yes,
okay,
we can.
Let's do that. Okay, this is another one of my tefillin boys. He's also a BU up-and-coming sophomore. But this guy's interesting. He has his own pair of tefillin. I don't know why. I'll just tell you how it is. And so I meet him in the beginning of the semester, put on tefillin. Finally said to him, bring your tefillin from home next time you go and put them on. So he goes home for whatever it was, Thanksgiving or whatever break it was. Comes back and has his own tefillin. I said to him, do you put on tefillin? No. I said, what's the problem? You're living, you have them in your dorm, just put them on. He says, you got to remind me. I said, fine, I'll remind you. So this became like this little thing where I wouldn't do it every day because I forgot or whatever. I wasn't thinking about it. Every once in a while, 3-4 times a week, I say, hey, did you put on film? Did you put on film? Sometimes he didn't put it on. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the winter. I said, quick, come to Chabad. I have a pair for you. Or I'd go meet him on campus. And then I said to him, it's very simple. When you get up in the morning, and you're not going to know the end of this, the end of the morning, before you leave your room, put on your tefillin. Then you know you have it done. Right? And the next spiel is you never leave your room without putting on your pants. And you can't say, oh, I was busy. Make sure to put on your tefillin. Make sure you put on your tefillin.
We love a good pants reference.
So this is a text I got from him on Sunday. He says, Rav, I need to tell you something funny that happened. You had told me to put on tefillin in the morning. I forgot. Now you know the background to that. Later that day, I'm in a random parking lot in Roslyn, which is Long Island, at a jewelry store. And as I'm leaving, 2 religious kids my age from Crown Heights just happened to be there and asked me to put on tefillin. No such thing as coincidences. My response to him is that Hashem loves you. I don't say the Rebbe loves you. Hashem loves you, and it's no question about it. But here you have 2 religious kids his age, meaning that they're probably like 20 years old, 2 Bachrim. I don't know who they are or what their story is, but either they live there and they're, it's summer break, or they went there specifically to meet him or people like him to put on tefillin. And he thinks, oh wow, there's no coincidence. There is no coincidence that he forgot they were there. But that's why, the thing by a Chabadnik, you don't walk out of your house without your tefillin. So I think, and this is really what Gimmel Thomas is all about. This is our subject of our Pos-cast today. Is doing more mitzvahs yourself and trying to get somebody else involved in that as well. And that'll bring Mashiach.
Amen. And on that note, I think that's all the time we have for this week's episode of the Pos-cast with Rabbi Shmuel Posner. Thank you so much for joining us. We are up on YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, pretty much everywhere that normal people use to listen to their podcast. So hopefully you found somewhere that makes it easier for you. Have a great Gimmel Tammuz, and we will see you next week, same time and same places.